The top stories tonight in Y News. Democratic candidate Joe Biden urges public to remain calm as vote counting continues. Incumbent President Donald Trump, meanwhile, alleges tremendous corruption and fraud in the mail-in ballots.
Climate activist Greta Thunberg hits back at President Donald Trump over anger management taunt.
Saudi Arabia abolishes the kafala system effective March 2021. The Interagency Task Force set to discuss proposal to ban speed caroling as the holiday season approaches.
Philippine Red Cross Chairman Senator Richard Gordon denies they are greedy for money after stopping its COVID-19 test due to government's debt.
President Rodrigo Duterte credits police and military for making the country one of the safest in the world. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Friday, November 6, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, Democratic candidate Joe Biden urges the public to remain calm and expresses confidence he will win the U.S. presidential race. Meanwhile, incumbent President Donald Trump alleges tremendous corruption and fraud in the mail-in ballots. From Chicago, USA, our global correspondent Chris De Leon joins us again tonight, live. Chris, how many more votes do the Democrats need to finally win the race?
Arlene, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden needs 6 more electoral votes to win the presidency, while incumbent President Donald Trump is 56 electoral votes away from being re-elected. Biden is closing on President Trump in tense vote counts in battleground Pennsylvania and Georgia. The president's chances of securing re-election depends on the developments in the 2 states. As counting goes on in the 2 swing states, President Trump complained of tremendous corruption and fraud in the mail-in ballots by the Democrats. However, he did not provide evidence for his claim. He made a statement during a briefing at the White House Thursday evening.
We want an honest election, we want an honest count, and we want honest people working back there because it's a very important job. So that's the way this country is going to win. That's the way the United States will win. And we think we will win the election very easily. We think there's going to be a lot of litigation because we have so much evidence, so much proof, and it's going to end up perhaps at the highest court in the land.
Trump's campaign launched legal challenges to stop voting in several battleground states. However, in Michigan, Pennsylvania, as well as in Georgia, the federal judges refused to Trump's campaign request to have the counting stopped. Meanwhile, to rebut Trump, Biden called for every vote to be counted. He also appealed to the public for calm and patience and expressed confidence he will win the election.
Each ballot must be counted, and that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be. Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. But that patience has been rewarded now for more than 240 years. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So I ask everyone to stay calm, all the people to stay calm. The process is working. The count is being completed, and we'll know very soon.
For now, no winner has been declared yet, and thousands of votes are still to be counted, including in key battleground states, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. Biden now has 264 electoral college votes in the race to accumulate the 270 needed to win the White House under the state-by-state U.S. election system. Mr. Trump has 214.
All right, thank you so much. Chris De Leon reporting live from Chicago, USA. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg hit back at Donald Trump on Twitter, saying the U.S. president should chill about the election, a repost to his tweet last year, mocking the teenager over what he called her anger management issues. Commenting on Trump tweeting "Stop the count" as the election race in the United States went to the wire, 17-year-old Thunberg tweeted, "So ridiculous. Donald must work on his anger management problem, then go to a good old-fashioned movie with a friend. Chill, Donald, chill." The tweet has been linked 1.5 million times so far and retweeted 360 times. Meanwhile, Twitter has taken action against tweets from President Trump for making baseless allegations of election fraud and falsely claiming that votes arriving after Election Day are ineligible. According to a representative from the company, they have placed a warning on his tweets for making a potentially misleading claim about an election. Meanwhile, Facebook has removed a pro-Trump group, Stop the Steal, for allegedly violating the social network's policies. The group has around 300,000 members, which, according to Facebook, is being used to delegitimize the election process. Facebook has also seen worrying calls for violence from some members of the group. Protests continue as the nation waits for the results of the 2020 presidential election. Dozens of demonstrations gathered in different cities across the United States as a handful of battleground states that were expected to determine the outcome of the election continue to count ballots. In Phoenix, Arizona, people carried Trump and American flags and signs that said "Stop the cheat" and "Biden got beat." Some carried guns and some criticized journalists for covering the protest. A small crowd of protesters gathered outside of State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia, to demand a fair process as votes were being counted inside. Dozens gathered outside the Pennsylvania Convention Center in Philadelphia on Thursday, where votes were still being counted. In Pennsylvania, supporters of President Donald Trump faced off with supporters of Vice President Joe Biden, who chanted "Count every vote."
A political expert weighs on how the result of the U.S. election will affect the relations between the Philippines and the United States of America. Ray Pelayo has this report.
A strict immigration policy was implemented when Donald Trump won the presidency almost 4 years ago. Many nationalities were affected, especially the citizens from Latin America. Political analyst Ramon Casiple said that the Filipino immigrants are not really affected by Trump's immigration policy. But if Joe Biden wins, a wider opportunity awaits for overseas Filipino workers, especially health professionals, due to the pandemic. Casiple added that the policies of Democrats, where Biden belongs, are more diplomatic than the Republicans. He also noted that the U.S. is also experiencing economic crisis, but the Philippines may pursue to strengthen trade relations with U.S. whoever wins. It includes agricultural export and electronics.
Ang kaibahan siguro ng pamamaraan nila, malamang kakausapin tayo muna at hindi lang tayo, pati Japan, pati yung mga iba pang aliado. Kasi ang gusto ng Amerika malamang sa sunod na panahon ay mabuo ulit ang alyansa, pero gusto nila anti-China yung alyansa.
The expert added that the Philippines will still depend on the U.S. in strengthening the security in the West Philippine Sea, where China claims. U.S. may also push the oil exploration in that area. But Casiple emphasized that the Philippines should not leave the policy of making friends with all nations.
Wala tayong kaaway ngayon. Hindi natin kaaway China, kaibigan nga natin. Hindi natin kaaway ang Russia. Wala tayong kaaway ngayon. Ako tingin ko i-maintain lang yun. Gamitin yan para mas malapit pa tayo sa lahat.
Malacanang this week remained confident that President Rodrigo Duterte will foster warm relations with whoever wins the U.S. key post. Casiple also cites a possible scenario where agreements withdrawn by the Trump administration like the Paris Agreement, will be back once Biden wins. The analyst said Filipinos will benefit in that agreement because the country faces a lot of calamities every year. The U.S. may also be participating in the United Nations under the Biden administration. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Foreign Affairs officially announces that the government of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will be abolishing the kafala system beginning March next year. According to the DFA, this will benefit around 800,000 overseas Filipino workers. Joanne Nano tells us why.
The Department of Foreign Affairs has commended the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for abolishing the kafala system on migrant workers beginning March 14, 2021. DFA Undersecretary Sara Arioles said that the Philippines has fought hard against the kafala system, which according to the government is a form of slavery among overseas Filipino workers, especially to household workers. Kafala system is a traditional practice which prevents a worker from traveling or switching sponsorships without the consent of their present employer. The sponsor is also in charge of issuing the exit visa. However, there are times that the DFA find it difficult to process the repatriation of an OFW because there are some sponsors denying to release an exit visa. This is why this is a very significant development for the DFA as they are fighting for anti-kafala system since 2009.
Yung simula na po nito, pinapayagan na nilang empleyado na umalis ng bansa pagkatapos ng kontrata niya, na magpalit siya ng kanyang employer kung tapos na yung kontrata niya at mag-travel abroad. Tinitingnan po natin kung ano yung coverage nito, pero natutuwa po kami dahil ito yung simula. Extraordinary po itong reform na to at pagsisimula on the part of the Saudi Arabia.
Once this becomes effective, the DFA advises OFWs to coordinate with the Philippine Embassy in KSA and not to settle with any negotiations they are offering. The Foreign Affairs Department assures that they will provide legal assistance among OFWs who will have a problem with their employer.
Kasi po ngayon, ang Saudi Arabia, sinabi na nila na ang mag-rule talaga ngayon is the contract between the parties. So, inaano lang po talaga namin, pinapayuhan po natin ang lahat ng ating mga manggagawang Pilipino na babalik sa, ang start po kasi nito March 14, 2021 yung reforms, na kailangan po dumaan po kayo ng PUEA para masipat po talaga ng gobyerno yung kontrata ninyo. Para pag nagkaroon po ng problema, kaya po natin ipaglaban.
Joanne Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
President Rodrigo Duterte admitted he was surprised when he learned that the Philippines was included in the world's 50 safest countries based on an analytics report. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
The Philippine National Police and the Armed Forces of the Philippines should be credited for maintaining peace and security in the country. This is the reaction of President Rodrigo Duterte after the Philippines ranked 39th in the top 50 safest countries in the world. The survey asked the respondents about their confidence in the local police force, safety on walking alone at night where they live, stolen money or property from them or other household member in the past 12 months, and being assaulted or mugged in the past 12 months. According to the president, he was surprised when the Philippines was included in the list.
So, if it's a recent Gallup survey, it only shows that, you have to credit the police and the military and the other uniformed services of government who have toiled to make this country at least very peaceful.
Meanwhile, PNP spokesperson Police Colonel Ismael Yu says this shows how effective the Duterte administration's programs are with the help and cooperation of local government units and the public.
Hindi ganun kadali ito ang pagiging number 40 natin. Okay. It will take a lot of time. It will take a lot of effort. It will take a lot of struggles and challenges bago tayo makarating dyan. So we are happy to hear of that as part of this effort for peace and order.
Countries which top the safest countries list include Singapore, Turkmenistan, China, Iceland, and Kuwait. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Motorists flying along EDSA may experience another bottleneck in the coming week as the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA will close another U-turn slot. Asher Kadapan Jr. will tell us why.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, is scheduled to close another U-turn slot along EDSA in line with the EDSA busway project aimed to provide faster mobility for the commuting public. The U-turn slot located along EDSA near Dario Bridge, northbound and southbound, shall be closed to vehicular traffic effective November 9. Traffic advisory signages were installed in the vicinity of the affected U-turn slot to guide and inform motorists of the impending closure. Motorists are advised to take the following detour routes. From northbound going southbound, affected vehicles may take the U-turn slot near Oliveros Drive in front of Shell Station. From southbound going northbound, affected vehicles may take the U-turn slot at EDSA Quezon Avenue flyover.
Itong busway na to, we will minimize the travel time to at least 1 hour and a half from Monumento to MOA. So maybe this is not for everyone. May inconvenience. But remember, this is high occupancy public utility vehicle that we are moving faster, more efficient, and it's carrying more passengers.
To this day, the MMDA has already closed 3 out of 13 U-turn slots that the agency has planned to shut in phases. But some affected commuters complain on the closure through the MMDA's social media account. The netizens expressed the inconvenience they experience, particularly the heavy traffic they endure for the distant alternative U-turn slots. Adjacent inner roads are also affected, being congested with the vehicle overflow from EDSA. But the MMDA stands firm with their objectives and explains that majority of commuters benefit from the scheme.
The traffic system that we want to implement in Metro Manila is moving people, not cars. Hindi namin nililipat ang traffic. There are so many roads to take. If we will give in to all the complaints of each and every private vehicle owners and drivers, mangyayari sa atin.
The MMDA encourages private commuters to take the public utility bus instead if they think they will be caught in the traffic. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The National Task Force Against COVID-19 is expected to release the results of their study on whether it is safe to use the antigen test. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why live. Yes, Vincent, go ahead. Good evening.
William, as the government is now on the phase 3 of the National Action Plan, balancing public health and opening up of the economy, authorities are now looking for ways to exponentially increase and expand the country's testing capacity. That is why the National Task Force Against COVID-19 wants to use the antigen testing as one of the ways to strengthen the testing capacity of the Philippines on COVID-19. In the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon earlier, NTF spokesperson retired General Restituto Padilla Jr. says that in case the government approves the use of antigen testing, it will greatly help strengthen the economy.
Pag ito ay nagawa sa within 30 minutes o hanggang 1 oras, sabihin natin, ikaw ay makakasakay na kaagad sa aeroplano at makakapunta na sa iyong destination na walang pangangamba na may dinala kang sakit. At ganun din naman yung tatanggap sa'yo na LGU.
The antigen test was first put under pilot testing in Baguio City in a bid to reopen the tourism in the City of Pines. But according to the Department of Health, not all antigen test brand passed the sensitivity standard of the World Health Organization.
Na dapat lahat ng antigen test kits ay merong 80% sensitivity and meron siyang 97% specificity. Ang SD Biosensor, base dun sa inilabas na pag-aaral at validation ng RITM, ay nagkaroon lang ng 71% sensitivity.
According to the NTF, they will release the results of the study of whether it is effective to use the antigen test to boost the country's testing capacity.
May abiso nga po pala ang Department of Health na nag-conclude na sila ng pilot test ng antigen test sa Baguio at ilalabas nila ngayon yung findings nila sa mga susunod na araw.
William?
Vincent, how does this antigen testing really work and why do they say it can help increase our testing capacity?
William, antigen testing is used to detect if an individual is currently infected or has an active COVID-19 infection. The antigen test detects the virus and not the antibodies created by the body. It still uses a swab to get samples, but the turnaround time for the result is much faster as compared to the RT-PCR test. For the RT-PCR test, it takes around 3 days before the results to come out, but for the antigen testing, it takes only 4 to 6 hours for the results to be released. With this much speed, Padilla said that this can facilitate movement and support the tourism sector and businesses alike. Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you, Vincent Arboleda, for that report live. The Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, or IATF, will soon discuss the proposal to prohibit street caroling this holiday season. Meanwhile, a vaccine cluster has been formed under the National Task Force Against COVID-19 to be headed by the chief implementer himself, Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. Rosalie Cos explains why.
It is still unsure if some parts of the country will remain under the general community quarantine or restrictions will be further eased to the lowest quarantine classification in December. As the holiday season is approaching, Cagayan Governor Manuel Mamba proposes to the national government to ban street caroling this year to prevent transmission of COVID-19. According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, this issue is expected to be discussed in the future meetings of the Interagency Task Force Against Coronavirus Disease.
Hindi pa po yan napagpulungan at napag-usapan sa IATF, pero I'm sure po ma-agenda yan sa mga susunod na meeting na IATF.
Meanwhile, the IATF has approved the establishment of the COVID-19 vaccine cluster with its chairman, Vaccine SAR Secretary Carlito Galvez. Following this, the National Task Force is restructured in which the COVID-19 vaccine is separate from the response cluster. The newly created COVID-19 vaccine cluster has executive committee members, advisory groups, different task groups with specific roles and responsibilities. As a result of the restructuring, the COVID-19 Immunization Program Management Organizational Structure, approved on October 26, 2020, has been abolished. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Philippine Red Cross Chairman Senator Richard Gordon said it is not true that they are greedy. This was after President Rodrigo Duterte reacted during the televised IATF briefing last night that the PRC is mukhang pera or greedy, while Health Secretary Francisco Duque III reported that the organization has resumed its COVID-19 testing services after PhilHealth partially settled its debt amounting to 1.1 billion pesos.
Ngunit nabayaran na po ang PRC at nagbukas na po silang muli, kaya patuloy na po ang kanilang pagsusuri ng mga swab specimen.
Mukhang pera.
Gordon says he is not going to mind the president's remark. According to the senator, he will just focus on the organization's COVID-19 efforts and helping the victims of Super Typhoon Raleigh.
I'm not offended. I think the president should really be careful because minsan di niya alam na the statement is not really presidential.
However, Gordon believes the president was just misled by how Secretary Duque laid out the statement.
I think the way it was presented, if at all I fault Secretary Duque, the way he presented it, is naniningil kami.
Despite this, the PRC chairman assured that they will continue working with the government in its fight against COVID-19. According to Gordon, PhilHealth has so far settled 700 million pesos, including the recent 100 million peso payment it made yesterday. However, the state health insurer has still a running balance of 377 million pesos. Gordon expects the amount to increase now that the PRC's testing capacity per day has reached 10,000. But he believes PhilHealth is now heading towards settling its bill quickly to avoid further problems. Should PhilHealth continues to pay 100 million pesos regularly, according to the senator, this could bring down the cost of each COVID-19 test to 3,200 pesos. Meanwhile, 4 participants have joined the clinical trial of the Japanese anti-flu drug ANTIGEN in the country. Meanwhile, with only a month to go, the World Health Organization has not yet issued a list of potential vaccines that will be used in its solidarity trials in December. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
199,000 tablets of Japanese anti-flu drug ANTIGEN arrived in the country last August. This morning, the Department of Health reports there are already 4 patients recruited to evaluate and monitor the effect of the Japanese anti-flu drug ANTIGEN. 2 of which are in the University of the Philippines Philippine General Hospital, 1 in Jose Rodriguez Hospital, and also 1 in Labor Hospital or the Quirino Memorial Medical Center.
In hospital settings natin ito gagawin, pero para sa mga mild lang na mga kaso. So alam naman po natin na sa ngayon wala nang masyadong na-admit na mga mild cases sa ating mga ospital, and dahil nga sa patuloy na pagbaba ng ating mga kaso, hindi na rin tayo masyado nakakita ng mga pasyenteng ganito sa ating ospital.
100 patients are needed for the ANTIGEN trial, but the DOH admits they are facing a challenge because there are criteria before a patient can undergo the said trial.
Dito sa mga exclusion criteria, marami tayong inilagay na exclusion criteria kapag may sakit ang pasyente, halimbawa nilalagnat, kapag nagre-require siya ng oxygen therapy, hindi siya pwede, kapag meron siyang mga ibang concomitant bacterial infections, yung mga iba pang sakit, So marami exclusion. So isa siguro yan sa nagiging challenge natin para sa paggamit nito sa clinical trial.
The DOH and steering committee have been revising protocols before the ethics review could approve of it and implement it for a wider scope of the ANTIGEN trial in the country. Meanwhile, there is no exact date yet when in December will the WHO solidarity trial of potential vaccines will start in the country. According to the Department of Science and Technology, the WHO hasn't also issued yet the list of vaccines for the trial.
Unang pagdadausan ng clinical trials ay yung Americas, at ang iba pa na kinabibilangan ng Pilipinas ay sa Disyembre pa. Hindi ko alam kung gaano kalaki ang agwat ng magiging trial doon sa Americas at dito sa atin sa Pilipinas. Maaaring maiksi lang sigurong diferensya yan. Pero definitely wala pa silang ina-announce na kung aling mga vaccines ang makakasama at kung anong protocol ang susundin. At wala pa rin eksaktong date kung anong petsa sa Disyembre makakaumpisa dito.
This afternoon, DOH and DOST with Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. held a meeting to thoroughly plan the strategies for the discovery, procurement, storage, and distribution of a COVID-19 vaccine that will be approved. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The security forces in the country declare that they are up to the task to lead the distribution of a potential vaccine for the coronavirus disease once it becomes available, likely in May of 2021. Leah Ilagan reports.
Government's vaccine czar, Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr., tapped the military and police to ensure transparency and the proper distribution of vaccine that could start by May 2021. PNP spokesperson Police Colonel Ismael Yu says they have yet to receive their specific tasks from the government, but the official assures they are ready to provide order and security in the distribution of vaccine.
Interest ito ng publiko in line with our national security on health security. So we have to participate. Our participation really is for the order. Order of everything na ipapatupad ng ating kawani ng gobyerno, lalo na sa executive branch, mga secretary ng DSWD, DOH, and everyone sa DILG. So kami, PNP, we will be on the peace and order.
AFP spokesperson Major General Edgar Arevalo said they will follow any orders that will be given to them. Meanwhile, Joint Task Force Coronavirus Shield Commander, Police Lieutenant General Guillermo Eleazar continuously appeals to the public to follow the minimum health protocols while waiting for the vaccine. Eleazar added, instead of worrying on the distribution, it would be helpful to pray for the scientists to discover the cure for the deadly virus. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the Philippines went up to 391,809 after 2,092 new infections were reported by the Department of Health today. The newly reported cases pushed the number of active cases or patients still undergoing treatment to 34,374. Majority, or 83.6% of the active cases, have mild symptoms. 9.8% are asymptomatic. 4.2% are in critical condition, and 2.4% have severe symptoms. Davao City recorded the highest number of new cases with 129. Quezon City with 100. Quezon with 83, Northern Samar with 82, and Cavite with 80.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The Department of Health has consulted some stakeholders, including laboratories, on setting prices for COVID-19 tests in the country. With this, the DOH said that they will release the price range of COVID-19 tests at the soonest time possible. Aiko Miguel explains why.
Next week, the Department of Health will release the price range of COVID-19 tests in accordance with Executive Order Number 118, which President Duterte signed. But the DOH explains prices will differ depending on the test kit's brand.
There might be more than 10 na different brands of testing kits in the market now that are being used. Kasi iba-iba ang presyo nila, kailangan maipresyo mo ng ganon, according to that specific type ng kit and the price.
The DOH also considers factors like methods used in laboratories. Before setting price range, even the manpower and logistics in laboratories are also considered in finalizing the prices of COVID-19 tests.
Yung ibang laboratorio, they use the manual method. Yung ibang laboratorio, they use the automated method. So pagka magkaiba rin ang presyo dahil magkaiba ang ginagamit ng mga logistics. The third one would be the indirect cost na ginagamit doon sa na meron ang mga laboratorio. Indirect cost would include the manpower. Diba, ilan ba yung sinuswelduhan natin? Yung utilities nila, yung kuryente, yung tubig, at kung ano pa, And then the third would be the other logistical requirement.
The price range will take effect after 15 days publication in the official gazette in the Philippines. Setting price range for COVID-19 tests will guide hospitals and facilities and avoid overpricing. This is also important so the public will be given access for an affordable COVID-19 testing, which is essential this pandemic. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's Maria Latosa reporting live from Perth, Australia.
Good evening, William. Qantas is phasing out its airport service desks, forcing customers onto self-service. Marvi Delphine will tell us why live. Yes, Marvi.
Marielle, Qantas has announced that it will permanently close its service and sales desk at all airports and lounges, leaving passengers to deal with cancellations and last-minute booking changes themselves at self-service kiosks, online or through a call center. Qantas said that the new changes will begin in the first half of 2021. Staff check-in desk will be maintained, but lost baggage counter hours will be cut in favor of self-serve recovery. According to Qantas Executive Manager Product and Service Philip Capps, there are a few factors behind this change. The main driver is an increasing shift towards people using our app to check in and manage their own bookings, particularly as we expand what the app can do. Mr. Capps added that this was happening before COVID, but it has accelerated significantly since. Given that shift, we can't ignore the efficiencies that come with removing the traditional sales desks, particularly in the current environment. As the company looks to make the low-contact airport environment introduced in response to COVID-19 permanent, 100 employees would be sacked as a result, according to the Australian Services Union's Assistant National Secretary, Emmeline Gasquet. Ms. Gasquet marked the changes imposed by Qantas as a betrayal of the airline's workers, saying workers feel betrayed. They were asked to stand by the company in tough times. And just as there's a glimmer of hope with borders reopening, they're being thrown out on the street. The union says that these self-managed services as part of an overhaul will not make Qantas no better than other airlines. Marielle?
Marvi, with Qantas' shift to self-service, wouldn't customer service suffer from these changes?
Marielle, Qantas rejected that customer service would suffer as a result of the changes. They argue that they were doing this in response to customer feedback, which apparently suggests that they prefer digital interactions over face-to-face contact. But what needs to be taken into consideration is that the removal of customer service staff would be particularly hard for older passengers and people with disabilities. Also, when things go pear-shaped, customers are expected to be more self-reliant, especially during severe weather events or other major disruptions. So we are yet to see if this move will be more time and resources efficient, or would it cost the company more. Riel?
All right, Marvi, thank you for that report live from Australia. New South Wales will be accepting visitors from every Australian jurisdiction and New Zealand starting on November 23, when border restrictions are set to be lifted along with Victoria. According to Premier Gladys Berejiklian, it was about time to take advantage of the returning pre-COVID retail confidence levels. That is why she urges other state and territory counterparts to support domestic tourism to kickstart the national economy. Also on November 23, an enforced mandatory QR code check-in at hospitality venues across New South Wales will be set in place. Meanwhile, Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews confirmed that Victoria will be joining the Trans-Tasman travel bubble, allowing direct New Zealand into Melbourne flights to resume on November 9. This decision came after Victoria goes a week without new coronavirus case or death, which occurred for the first time since the start of March. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern appointed the most diverse cabinet in New Zealand's history. From New Zealand, Iya De Vera will tell us why live. Yes, Iya.
Marielle, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced the new cabinet of the country on Monday, and it is the first time that a female Indigenous is appointed as Minister of Foreign Affairs. Nanay Mahuta, who is a Maori, the Indigenous people of New Zealand, is a member of the Parliament and serving as the Minister of Maori Development and Minister of Local Government prior to her appointment. Mahuta served as a cabinet minister in the 6th Labour government since 2017 and has been in Parliament for 24 years. Ardern said appointing Mahuta as foreign minister is a natural decision to take. She saw the fantastic relationship that Mahuta formed as an associate trade minister, and building a relationship quickly is one of the key jobs in a foreign affairs role. Let us listen more to the Prime Minister.
On to other key appointments. Nanai Mahuta will become our Minister of Foreign Affairs. She brings the experience of being an Associate Trade Minister in the last cabinet. She is also the first woman in our nation's history to hold the portfolio. She will hold on to local government, continuing the work started on Three Waters, and she'll also pick up an Associate Māori Development role.
Meanwhile, Jacinda Ardern's new ministers sworn in today at Government House in Wellington, New Zealand, and went straight to the first cabinet meeting. On Prime Minister's post-cabinet press conference, she mentioned that the government's priority throughout the end of the year are the economic recovery and keeping New Zealanders safe from COVID-19. Ardern confidently said that she has a team that will lead the country for the next 3 years and grateful that she is able to officially crack on with it. Marielle?
Iya, you mentioned that one of the government's priority is keeping New Zealand safe from COVID-19. Are there any measures that the government or the Prime Minister take or implement?
Yes, Marielle. Ardern specifically appointed Chris Hipkins as the new Minister for COVID-19 response. This is a new role that will focus on the ongoing response during the pandemic. It includes running of managed isolation facilities, border defense, and health response. She mentioned it is critical that New Zealand has the most experienced ministers leading the ongoing COVID response to keep the country safe and to accelerate the economic recovery plan. Marielle?
Thank you, Iya, for that report live from New Zealand. And those are the reasons behind the news here in Australia and in other parts of the globe. For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
Thank you, Mariela Toza, reporting
Back to
live
you,
from
William.
Perth, Australia. Yes, thank you very much, Mariela Toza, reporting live from Perth, Australia.
In other news, severe tropical storm Shawnee continues to move west-northwestward. State Weather Bureau Pagasa says as of 4 p.m. today, the center of Shawnee was estimated at 145 kilometers west-northwest of Itbayat, Batanes. It has maximum sustained winds of 95 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 115 kilometers per hour while moving west-northwestward at 20 kilometers per hour. Shawnee is forecast to pass over the sea off the southern coast of Taiwan within 12 hours and will exit the Philippine area of responsibility tonight. Pag-asa adds, Shawnee is expected to maintain its strength in the next 12 hours before it will significantly weaken and may be downgraded to a low-pressure area on Sunday afternoon. Tropical cyclone wind signal number 1 is placed under Batanes, where strong breeze to near gale conditions will be experienced. Batanes and also Babuyan Islands will also experience light to moderate with at times heavy rains. Pag-asa warns sea travel is risky over the coastal waters of Batanes. Meanwhile, the low-pressure area east of Mindanao has entered the PAR at 2 p.m. today. At 4 p.m. today, the LPA was estimated at 955 kilometers east of Visayas. It is forecast to move generally west-northwestward or northwestward towards eastern Visayas and may likely reach the area tomorrow afternoon. The LPA may develop into tropical depression within the next 36 hours and will be named Tonyo. The trough of the LPA will bring scattered light to moderate with at times heavy rains over Mindanao, eastern and central Visayas, and Bicol region. And those are the reasons behind the news, November 6, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.